background of this interview. I think most people will recognise your contribution to bonsai over the years, and that the vast majority of us are in bonsai because of you, one way or another. You've been a pioneer in bonsai, and I'm going to let you tell us what year it would have been since in a short while. But this is my stack of books that belong to you, and I did say we'd need a Sharpie. You may need one or two to get through that pile at some point. But the focus of this interview is around the kind of start of bonsai in the UK, which you've been a participant in that for a very long time now. But I think it's a story that most people here won't really appreciate. It's easy for us to go and buy wire and new pots and soils and all the kind of things that we may need that we import from Japan these days, which was probably very different in the days when you were starting bonsai. So it may well be beneficial if we can ask you to kind of describe your start in bonsai, when that was, and what the kind of availability of products might have been back then.
Right, so my journey in bonsai started off in 1967. I'm 84 years old, by the way. I don't look it. People don't believe my age, but it just shows bonsai gives you a long life. So, and you've got to be patient. The year I was married, which was 1966, in those days you could buy a house fairly cheaply. So I bought a brand new 2-bedroom flat in southeast London for £4,495, less than £4,500. I only needed £450 deposit. But in those days we only earned £7 to £9 a week. So you put that into perspective. But then I got in before the house prices started rising. The reason that I got into bonsai is quite fortuitous. Had I not lived in a flat, I would never be into bonsai, because I was quite interested in plants, and everything I grew had to be grown in the balcony in pots. Luckily, in those days, there were evening classes where you could go and do all sorts of things, and pottery was one of them. In fact, ceramics was my first love, not bonsai. I used to follow these famous potters like Bernard Leach, Hans Cooper, Lucy Reed, and I used to be a very good potter. In 6 months I could throw a 10-kilogram lump of clay into a thrown pot. So I love pottery, and of course while making pots I said to myself, why don't I make some flower pots to grow plants in, because I couldn't afford to buy flower pots. So that's how the bonsai began. Most of my books are written from the point of view of experimenting with plants. I've never claimed to be a great master or anything, and in fact the first book, which I wrote in 1984 and published in 85, many people used to laugh at that book. They said, oh, they're all rubbish trees, you know, they're no good trees. I did have very good trees even in those days. I had a marvelous collection of these imported Japanese trees and trees that I had developed. But the point of the book, that first book, Bonsai, The Art of Growing and Keeping Miniature Trees, like my present YouTube videos, is to show you how easy it is to get into bonsai, not to frighten people off. I think they missed the point of the book. They missed the point of the book. And in fact, all my books, that is my approach. Even today in my YouTube videos, I do it in a very simple, down-to-earth way, so that you can follow it. Don't you think so, Mark?
Absolutely. I think you're kind of stealing some of my future questions, so I might be relying on the audience to be doing some of those questions later on. But what made you write a book in the first place?
Well, many people who aspire to writing bonsai books think that you can write a book and then approach a publisher and then it will get published. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Usually books are produced like any marketable product. In the two big book fairs, there's one called the Frankfurt Book Fair and the London Book Fair. And these publishers or the producers, they go to the book fairs and they have an idea for a book with no script or anything. They just have a few mock-up pages and they sell it to the person who wants to buy the book to sell it. And then once they get the order, they set about finding an author. And in those days, in 1984, I had already won like a couple of Chelsea gold medals. And because I'm a very articulate person, I don't want to brag about it, I am able to communicate well. So they find the authors to write the book. So it doesn't go the other way around. You don't write the book and approach the author. They find the author for the book they want to sell. So that's the first book that I wrote. And I can give you in this audience a secret as to how much I sold the copyright of that book for. I sold it in 1984 for £2,000, which is no money at all. But I knew what I was letting myself in for, because that book is still in print, it's still published in so many hundreds of different versions, and that gave me some claim to fame. And that's the same with most of the books. And the money has never been an object in most of my enterprises. I know you've got to live, but it is to spread the gospel of bonsai, which I do to this very day. When I started doing the YouTube videos seriously before the pandemic or the start of the pandemic, I had a lot of people, especially from the United States, saying to me, "You're a stupid fool, you know, why are you selling all this for free or giving it away for free? You know, if you collaborate with us, I could sell these videos and you could make a ton, you know. You could be doing courses, $100 a time, you know, for 10 classes or something, you would make a mint." But I didn't want to go down that route. I wanted to spread the message of bonsai and make it more widely known to others. To this very day, I still do that. And I hope, I see that as my mission in life, and I hope I have managed to fulfill that.
I think you probably have. I mean, out of the audience, how many people own a Peter Chan book?
And YouTube followers?
And I mean, most certainly, I think your reach for getting new entrants into bonsai, particularly via the books and YouTube platform, is probably unchallenged, really, in terms of you being. How many YouTube followers do you have?
478,000, nearly 500,000 in 5 years, 4 or 5 years. But the last 1,000 is very hard to get. During pandemic, I was getting 1,000 new subscribers per day. Now I think maybe 1,000 a week.
And just out of interest, how many people here own their own YouTube channel and publish videos? Just one?
There are quite a few.
Oh, another one. How difficult do you find it?
Pretty difficult. I don't know why they find mine attractive. That's another tale.
I would probably say it's because your approach is, there's no nonsense, it's just, this is the tree, this is the way that we approach it. In terms of tree material, do you have any preferred type?
I think the challenge is to make it as simple as possible. That means you can go in the garden, dig your own tree from the garden, dig a little oak sapling, little silver birch seedling, and make a bonsai from that. And that takes you into a higher level. What these people do, I hope that once you get into bonsai, you can aspire to that. So I'm only the starting point. It will get you started. And once, it's like your kindergarten teacher. I'm sure you remember when you went to school, your kindergarten teacher taught you your ABC and taught you how to read and write. I didn't teach you into higher maths, you know, Fourier series and all that sort of thing. But you will always remember your first teacher, don't you? So I like to think that I'm most people's first teacher, and that takes you onto greater things. So that I see as my mission in life, and I'm really thankful that the digital media is so powerful. I would never write a book again because the digital media is something else. It reaches so many people. And the other satisfying thing I find from doing my YouTube videos, I don't always publicize it, but the number of letters and emails I get from people saying that they've had all sorts of mental problems, all sorts of other problems, you know, personal problems, and these videos have been such a therapeutic thing for them, which I really feel touched by. I don't like to say it in a boastful sort of way, but for some reason I find that it has had that effect on people. So I still believe that I see that as my mission in life. And of course, for those of you who do bonsai, I'm sure you get something out of it. So there's a much wider audience who gets that thing. You don't have to be a great bonsai expert. You can just play around with your little trees and still get the satisfaction and joy and wellness from doing it. So this is what bonsai should be. Not about competition and not about aspiring to do great things, but do things in your simple way, and it will give you so much relaxation and pleasure. And this is what bonsai should be, and I keep reminding people that this should be the object of bonsai, nothing else.
Absolutely. I mean, I have been unfortunate that I've never really suffered from mental health issues, but I do kind of talk to people with regards to when you're practicing bonsai and you realise that 2 or 3 hours has suddenly passed, and that's been a mindful activity in itself. It isn't really just about the high-end work, although I think that's where most of us would aspire to be, whether we reach that point or not. You preempted one of my questions, was around you writing another book. But I think, I mean, I've got a copy here of Bonsai Masterclass and the updated version of it as well.
Yeah.
Is this your final book, Peter?
Well, of all the books I wrote, Bonsai Masterclass is the only book I kept the copyright. That happens to be my best book. When I wrote it in 1986, I wrote about collecting trees from hedges and things like that. People used to laugh at me. I was chairman of the British Bonsai Association in those days. And they used to literally laugh at the chairman, saying that, you are a silly fool, how can you make a bonsai from hedging material? And yet, that is the prime source of most bonsai. All your privet hedges, yew hedges. I still remember the days I used to live in Purley, which was near Croydon. And there was a rubbish dump tip at the end of my road. And I used to go there on a Sunday morning. Of course, they don't let you go there now because they control it very closely. I used to sit there for 20 minutes, and you won't believe, in 20 minutes, the number of privet stumps, yew stumps, all that sort of tree was thrown in the skip. I just begged people, can I have that, can I have this? And that's how I experiment and learned my bonsai trade, collecting other people's rubbish. So I've always said that, it doesn't cost a lot of money to make bonsai. It's the enjoyment you get out of it, and it exercises your mind. You learn to be innovative and resourceful. So this is how bonsai should be, You don't have to spend loads of money. I do have customers who spend mega bucks on bonsai, but they buy it as a different thing. They're like works of art. They buy it because they don't do anything to it. But then at this level, at the club level, this is all the sort of thing I really like. It's a thing up to my own heart.
I think a lot of people here would agree with the hedging material, and we've got quite a large selection of collected Yamadori out there. I think Rob is a big user of certainly privet, and Maro had a big privet in the trophy this year. Did rather well, I think, didn't it, Maro? Your privet in the trophy did well.
All my privets
There we go. Absolutely. Yeah. You probably find people are collecting them in rubbish tips. The large that's behind us was a collected wild piece as well. So there's a lot of interesting material, and I think, as Rob pointed out, it doesn't have to be big to achieve a good result.
So I thought I'd show you some of the demonstrations which are going on. Some stunning trees. What's the origin of this? Do you know?
We don't know, Peter.
No.
Nice, though. Well, how he does it?
I picked some mouse trees, skanks, but
Yeah. Just look at that. He's just flown right round, right round.
started in that.
Yeah.
But it's come
It
from.
come right round there as well. Yeah.
Starts there.
Yeah. See? It's an instant image, isn't it?
It's because yeah, and then you develop the branches behind it, and slowly you can then take that off. But it's got that foliage on it. It's pretty well instant. Yeah, almost there.
You asked him for one of my juices.
Beautiful.
That's very techy, that, Peter.
Ah,
Very techy. Can I have a selfie with you?
yeah, sure. Okay, great.
Thank you.
No, too cold. Ridiculous work.
The bonsai.